You are listening to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where illumination and inspiration is but a click away. With so many genre topics for you on everything that you need to know in life. We celebrate and share the people who have taken the journey before you and who are now here to serve you with their wisdom and their knowledge. The next show coming up is...
Hello. Hi. Welcome to It's All About the Kids on Self-Discovery Media. This is the Self-Discovery Media Network, which broadcasts not only from Canada, but over the whole world. I'm your host, Hyacinth Jones. Welcome to It's All About the Kids. So today I'm on my own. I had an interview last week with Isha Green, who is a military spouse, an entrepreneur, an amazing mother and advocate for her children's education, and has had to do a lot of negotiating and pushing and letting her voice be heard to get the best for her children. And they're exceptional. They're all A-grade students. She's got a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 15-year-old, and she's just really a remarkable woman. So I really hope that you'll go back and have a listen to that. She's got lots of tips and insights into what it's like to bring your children up, how you set the discipline, how you set the standards, the tests that happen for yourself, and how to keep yourself sane. So go ahead, look for that. Look for that recording with Isha, and I'm sure you're going to love it. There's also another recording that I did on Self-Discovery Media with Kitty Bonney, Dr. Kitty Bonney, based in the Bahamas, and that was looking at well-being in education. I invite you to go and have a listen to that as well, so you'll get a feel for what this channel is all about. It's all about the kids. So for us adults, for most of us grown-ups, our childhood is far behind us. And my feeling is that we're going through life with a lot of unsettled traumas and stigmas. And they only flag up when you get either an illness or things are not going your way in your work relationships, or career or finances. And it gets to such a point that you're going to have to take therapy or just start to look inside. So what am I going to do today? I want to highlight the point that emotional well-being in education has to start with the grown-ups, the authority figures in the life of these young people, being able to show, to have the courage to show what vulnerability is, to be able to unravel what their dreams are, and to be seen going towards them. Because while we are trying to teach our children in the schools through dictating to them what it is they need to learn, we need to listen to what's in their heart, what are their interests, and what is their potential, and then feed them and nurture them with the right tools and resources to help them build on their strengths and make what it is that they want a reality. And we need to teach, if you're asking me, better skills in collaboration. And we're going to be able to teach that better as teachers when we ourselves as grown-ups are more used to doing that. So it brings me down to my subject. I don't know if I've already told you a little bit about me. There is also another show where I'm introducing myself and I'm giving you lots of background about me and why I'm into this subject, why I'm a parenting coach, where I got the inspiration to go into child development and all this kind of stuff. Today, we're looking at collaboration and leadership and what that links to, how this links to emotional well-being. So the premise that I'm starting from is that while we are no longer segregated along the lines of ethnicity anymore, apparently, we are still segregated in terms of age and profession. And this is harming us, because when you start out with an open mind, with lots of interests, you go through the system, not having your own emotions or emotional state being validated, and your perspective being understood or taken into consideration to put you on this journey of unraveling and uncovering who you actually are and what you could do to create a powerful impact in this world, which is what I believe education is. So somehow along the line, somewhere along the line, we've got this myth that it's not necessary or not possible for each of us in the education system, all the students, to go out to create a meaningful impact in the world. And meaningful, I think, is what we've allowed to have that dumbed down to mediocrity. And the impact that I'm talking about is really, phenomenal. And when we look at being in an environment, an educational environment, where your emotional well-being is taken into consideration, you're going to be in a state to learn, and this should come on the curriculum, certain types of intelligences. And I'm just going to look at 4 of them, for example, and that is emotional, social, spiritual, and financial, or economic, let's call it. Because for me, I mean, we're learning maths, we're learning sciences, we have some educational, physical education, and then we also have some, at least when I was in school, we would have an area where we would have sex education, or what did we call it? PSD, or I don't remember, where you would be talking about life, right? And this is all well and good. And if we can connect them to emotional, social, spiritual, and economic intelligences, so it's first going to have to unravel that, okay, we're stating that this is a foundation to go on to have a successful life. Success, we're going to have to allow the children or the person and the teachers to define that in their own way. We all have different motivations and values, and we don't need to ignore them. We need to learn to see each other from our different perspectives and learn to collaborate and think in win-win terms, how to synergize so that we all work together towards the greater good. These are the aspects that I feel was missing, certainly in my education. I wasn't able to go enough into it, and I'm very conscious about these aspects missing in the standard education that my children are getting. I'm living here in Belgium, and I'm not saying that there's anywhere that I want to put the blame on, but I, as a mother, as an educator, as a life coach, as a leadership coach, as somebody who wants to grow and make an impact and have to grapple with my own inner demons around spirituality, finances, relationships, my health, and I mean, you name it. It's really become so important to me to speak about this, and that's why I have this channel and I'm sharing this with you. So the premise is, like you heard, we are all separated so far as our age is concerned, and we have this big denial about aging, and it's also very cool to to age well. Fair enough, I agree with that. But we're also enhancing ourselves on the external version. And I'm wondering what it is that we are conveying in this relationship with aging, that perhaps we're coming from a past where aging was a sign of dying and deteriorating, basically. And it was a fearful thing. So perhaps that's what's left in our psyche. And we're trying to avoid being associated with that. So trying to attach ourselves onto these images of what being young and beautiful is. But it's giving us a false identity. And it's giving people who are looking up to us as role models, because essentially we are all, like it or not, role models of a sort. There's going to be one person at least looking at you, feeling that something in your life is going to resemble or resonate with them, and they're going to take a cue out of your story that's going to be able to help them understand and to place the experiences that they're having and be able to move beyond certain struggles. So I have grown up really being aware, or at least believing, that I am a role model, and all of the people around me are role models. And that's a lovely responsibility, I have to say. Because you just get to be yourself. You get to be vulnerable and honest. And when we're living in a society where our own innocence is questioned and tampered with, when our own creativity is challenged and tampered with, our self-mastery is challenged and tampered with, in the sense that even when a baby is crying or is eating, we are insisting that we know better about their body temperature or about their internal needs with regards to the food, and whether or not they should have enough, or if they're going to be allowed to have the sweet afterwards and things like this. So we're kind of infringing on their own sense of wanting to control, to be autonomous into what goes into their body. We also I'm going through different channels. I touched on innocence, creativity, self-mastery. We've also got our own sense of compassion. We are taught in our society at large. I'm based here in Belgium. I grew up in England, so I'm really predominantly looking at the West. I also collaborate and do work in America, in Canada, in India. I see it's similar in Australia, although the name of my company is a New Zealand name. I've not been there yet, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to have some remnants of the education system that I'm talking about. The courage that we're expected to show is a competitive one. How willing are we to get the leg up, or get the one leg up on the ladder, to excel and to be seen as prospering, and that it's for the benefit of the economy. While there are little elements that are in place to make sure that that ladder is not actually on an even ground. So while you're being given the ladder, sometimes it's not been maintained or taken care of, or you're giving a type of ladder according to your standing in society. What I feel is happening now is that all this age segregation, professional segregation that we have, because ultimately, when you do finish your degree, or you do finish your PhD, or PhDs, let's say, or whatever it is that your academic path takes you to, is that where you start out like this, is that you you are narrowing yourself down and specializing in a particular area until you're left, completely certified in your own sanity and being able to give opinion on things. But you're going to be mostly surrounded in rooms with people who are very similar to you. And at that level of academic height or professional height, if you're not being stimulated with diversity, then there's going to be some kind of stagnation in your own growth, in your own happiness, in your own emotional well-being, because you're not going to be able to connect with all of you. You're going to experience a very limited way of living and interacting with people. And I am seeing, especially with some clients of mine now, that this is a problem. And they're stuck and they're trying to get out, but there's all these addictions actually to the accolade, to the working. And how do we plug back in? How do we get young people engaged with older people? How do we get older people engaged with younger people? I say it all has to start with each of us, small and big, to nurture and listen to their inner child, because we all have one. And if we're looking where we're coming from as a people, human race, civilization aside, there has been a collective history of a lot of violence and trauma, which has not been worked out. We've had a lot of rebuilding our societies, and the death and the shame, the pain, whatever it is that would have been encountered, did not have the necessary time to heal for many people. And I do believe that there are many people who are working it out and are doing great things and are in a stable place spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And while there are many, they are not to be found in the areas where we need them, and that is in our education system. And in leadership positions, let's say, in our society at large. So while this segregation is happening from our very birth, or pregnancy even, we are putting labels of importance onto each other. And you have to ask yourself, where does this authority come from? Where did we sign the paper to hand over the authority over ourselves to somebody else? And I'm not sure that I am ready to relinquish the power that I have over myself, although we all have to go to school, right? It's compulsory. We all have to learn. Certainly in Belgium, that's the law. I'm just wondering, under what conditions do we have to apply ourselves to those regulations? Do we have to prepare ourselves to sit in the system that's been going on for the last 100 years without much updating? And we're having all these wonderful new alternative schools springing up. But aren't we again then just segregating and specializing? When I was looking around for a school for my children in Belgium, I went with an organization of parents to look at several schools in our area. And I remember I liked one school for this aspect, another school for this aspect, and felt disappointed that, one school is already an alternative, but what I'm seeing is that I liked one aspect of that alternative in the secondary school area. But I like another aspect of the other one, so far as engagement with the young people and the discipline that was being given there. And it was just disappointing that, okay, so another alternative school would have to spring up. Why is it not possible for our children to learn from each other? Why can't schools collaborate with each other to learn? Why can't the teachers collaborate with each other to learn? Because essentially, we've all going for the same goal. We all want happiness, prosperity, knowledge. And once you've been to this school and you're working in this school, you know, it's all closed. And once you sign yourself up into this teaching system, everything is also fed down to you. So that's why we're seeing a lot of teachers also leaving and finding their own way. I believe actually that all teachers should be entrepreneurs and consultants, and should form some kind of alternative way to impart their knowledge in a way that is honorable to who they are. Because teaching 20 odd children, 30 children sometimes in one classroom is really not honoring to you as a human being, actually. Because you like to engage, make relationships, to learn from the children. You're just not given the time, the space to breathe. And there are lots of red tape and administration also coming into it, and longer working hours, and even a longer time that you have to stay in the system before you can get your pension. So I think there's a lot of I use this word a lot, I'm hearing it myself a lot of, so I'm going to have to look for an alternative. So I'm finding that there is so much that the teachers have to give and are not given the chance to develop their own leadership potential, and to collaborate as a leader, like a compassionate leader. You learn how to collaborate, how to develop this emotional intelligence, this empathy, and then you go a step up to have compassion. And then you go, I mean, if you as a teacher can develop these areas and to go around to different schools, see where it's needed, and just to be living in a more organic kind of way. This is my utopian vision. And this is what I'm striving for in my organization, Time Manor Consulting, which came into being from me going through the teacher training course and discovering that a lot of the material, much of the material, was relevant not just to me as a trainee teacher, but as a student and as a parent. So it inspired me to create a consultancy that was there to serve and bring these three dynamics together: the parents, the teachers, and the children, and to work with other bodies to create events and occasions to see things from the other perspective, and to innovate together and figure out how are we all going to thrive. You can have healthy competition, but the point is there is no other you. No one is going to do exactly what you do the way you do it. So rather than, what we're tending to do is to make lots of different versions of the same thing. How about just knowing that you're unique? And while it may look like I'm another parenting coach who's read and learned from so many of these other amazing parenting coaches, there is so much more to me that I know, and I am prepared to step into this arena, this space, which is called life, and to live it boldly, honestly, and most of all, lovingly. I wanted to share with you, the last thing I'm going to share with you was this word importance, the way how we're attaching importance to everything, actually. I don't know if you've heard of this wonderful book called Course in Miracles. And it's a very fascinating story how it came into being. And this is another aspect of us and our intuition that is not at all tuned in or understood, and kind of put on the back burner and not at all brought into our education system. And I find that a shame. I find that is, if we're prepared to teach science, excuse me, if we're prepared to teach science, then I believe that there should be an aspect of metaphysics that is also taught. And we can share all the different perspectives and allow the listener, the one who's been educated, to connect with what resonates with them. And we are so multifaceted, so it's going to make sense that we're going to resonate with a lot of things. So we should be doing more collaborative work in our schools. Our education should be more about working together and discovering what makes you tick and how to overcome setbacks. So life is about overcoming setbacks, because part of life is the struggle. You're even born through pain. It hurts. And that's not just for the mother. That's actually, there are babies or people that actually I'm thinking in Dutch now. It's getting late here. It's just turned 11 o'clock. But I'm thinking in terms of people who experience trauma from the birth. And I heard, I think it was Elitha Stolt, it could be somebody else. I'll have to look that up and work that in to one of the following podcasts. But it talks about when a child, a baby, let's say, when you're putting the clothes over their head, that they have, some of them have this like gasping, because it's reminiscent of having to come through this small channel and find your way into this flood of light and sensation when you take your first breath of life. So of course we know more about these things now than we did even 20 years ago, but certainly 100 years ago. And with all this research and these things we know, it just doesn't make any sense to me why we're still pursuing standard education the way we are. I mean, I understand it because financially and strategically and logistically it makes sense to do it very slowly. But again, it goes back to what we're giving importance to. And you'll probably know also my work with the United Nations in this International Decade for the People of African Descent. And I'm putting out a lot of information about life as an African or a Caribbean person in this world before slavery as we know it, that there was a life and there is a life. And a lot of what we're learning in history is extremely biased and is extremely nuanced towards suppression of the African skinned person. These are facts now. And I would invite you to check out Jacqueline Batalora, and then you have Robin DiAngelo and Dr. Joy DeGruy. These three women are doing exceptional research and coming back with real keys into how we're going to go forward to reconstruct and heal from the particular trauma that we've stressed on a group of people in the world for no apparent reason, but we're all stuck in this web of prejudice and societal hierarchy and entrenched racism. So what do I want to say? The last thing I want to say to you is about this word important. And I was thinking about it. I had a meditation actually this morning, and I had to think about this this word. I had to think about this word and start to think, okay, so what does it feel like to be important, to feel important? And then I thought of my husband immediately. He knows he's important and carries himself as somebody who knows he's important and feels important. And I wanted to feel some of that. How would I carry myself? How would I, be around? And then I realized how important it is to, as an important person, to let everything around me where my eye falls know that it's also important, that it's significant in my importance, because if there is no other, I mean, what is the importance? And then it took me to another realization that when you are feeling important in our societal system as it is now, certainly in our school and in our academical hierarchy and our positions of professions and jobs, and I mean, you name it, the schools that you go to, the language you speak, the accent you have, the money in your bank, the area you live, it's never ending. When you have got to this status of self-importance, there's a lot of things that you don't have time for, that you can ignore, that this is suddenly not important to you, this is not important to you, this is not important to you, and you only pay attention. Once you are important, you pay attention to things that are important. This is what I realized, and it made me wonder, wow, that's, at one side it's a protection from, like filtering in junk into your system, and on the other side it's not allowing you to give importance to something in the right capacity, in the right way, to develop that sensitivity to give importance to things in a differential way, in that differential experience. And so it's really about, are you important? Is there there's something about you that other people will call on to have you your being will be imported to add value somewhere else. That's what I realize important means. So there's a lot of things that we don't find important because we don't want to invite them into our attention, into our psyche, into our being, into our heart. And in some respects, that can be a blessing. But my point is that everything is important. And once you develop this system of emotional well-being, knowing the connection, the alignment between your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul, then that doesn't need to be a scary thing, that you're going to be able to give the right kind of importance to certain things, but that your attention and your understanding, the depth of your understanding about importance, can bring a little bit of light, a little bit of love and peace in that direction. And then that makes you worth being important, being called to places to share that vibe. And that's all I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that I was able to make a point about it's all about the kids, emotional well-being in education, and also leadership. I took you all the way through the stories of our historical trauma that we have and how we didn't manage to heal adequately before jumping into a system of being judged and graded according to what we can reproduce, which is not actually connected to who we are and what resonates with us in general. So there are a lot of amazing places where, of course, this is not true. And I believe this is why there's a lot of homeschooling going on now, where it's been shown, certainly, what's his name? John Holt is talking about homeschooling and how the homeschooled child is really so much more advanced than the children in the education system. I was talking to a Nigerian lady as well, and she's talking about how a child at 16 is already entering university, and they're expecting them as at 25 to have completed the whole system of education. So is it possible that we are wasting children's time and hours and not really looking at what kind of future we want and then working on creating that? That's my overall question. That's my overall question. And I've woven you through so many little crevices to bring us to that closing question, really. Should we now, for the next 10 years, I suggest, slow down. Slow down and find out what kind of a future do we want? And what are we going to do about that? What's stopping us from making it that? And get out of our own way, reach out, collaborate with people to actually make it happen, and to address all this lack of leadership and emotional well-being in our society and education system in particular. So society, we're looking then at our parenting. Does this resonate with you? How was it for you growing up? Do you remember any experiences in school where you felt that you were encouraged? Do you feel that there were experiences in school where you were discouraged? Which has stayed with you more? Where do you find yourself now in life? Are you pushing to go beyond and don't have the tools? How do you feel about the young generation now who are completely in the throes of this digital bombardment? Do you have any experience there? Are you a young person and looking for yourself now, or looking to be successful, or take care of your own life, your own mortgage, your own finances? I don't know if you've heard of Robert Kiyosaki and the quadrant. So I would take a look at that and see what you can do there. That's it. I'm getting out of here now. I could go on forever. Thank you so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. And let's see, how long have I done? It's not telling me, but it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to coming back and being here with you again. You were listening to Self-Discovery Media. I am Hyacinth Jones. You can find me online, www.hyacinthjones.com. Also, my business is called Time Manor Consulting, and that's TAIMANA consulting.com. There you'll hear about all the educational projects, all the perspective and ways that you can get involved and pitch in to making this future a successful one. Lots of love.
We hope that you enjoyed the show and were inspired. Come and visit us at selfdiscoverymedia.com and see what other shows we have for you. And please do visit our selfdiscoverycommunity.org and see how you can be a part of giving back. Thank you very much.